Hello, guys, and welcome to this week's episode of the Limitless Landscapers Podcast. I'm Paula Warman, the Landscapers Coach, and your host of the show. And today we're talking about inquiries and sales. How can you actually get more inquiries to convert in this current climate without lowering your prices? If this is something that is quite frankly annoying you right now, then I suggest you go to the show. Welcome to the Limitless Landscapers Podcast, the podcast for owner-led landscaping businesses who want more profit, more control, and ultimately less stress. I'm Paula Warman, the Landscapers Coach, and after scaling a landscaping business to a team of 15, winning 38 industry awards, closing it when overheads became unsustainable, and rebuilding lean and profitable, I've learned this. Turnover doesn't build freedom. Profit, systems, and smart decisions do. And that's exactly what we talk about here on the Limitless Landscapers Podcast, where limitless isn't larger, it's sustainability. Hello, guys, and welcome. So, how has everyone been? And what have you been up to? Feel free always to send me an email telling me what you've been up to, what you're most struggling with, what content you want me to create for you on this podcast if you have particular questions, because that's what I'm here for, to help you guys. So just throwing that out there at the beginning rather than the end today. You've got all my contact details, go for your life. But today I'm talking about my favorite topic, really, which is sales. For those of you that don't know, my background is predominantly in sales. I used to be a salesperson when I came out of university. I came out thinking I could just go into my dream job. Didn't quite happen like that. So I went into sales. Got pretty good at sales, actually, and therefore then went into sales management, became a senior leadership manager, and embarked on what was a really lucrative and successful career in sales within mainly the health and fitness industry. And then I went into the very difficult and slightly, let's just say, it beat me up a little bit, but into magazine sales back when magazines were an actual thing. That was probably one of my hardest sales jobs, but still very successful in that area as well. And actually, having that background in sales and an understanding of sales and the link between marketing and sales, and indeed being a business owner and a salesperson, because we all hate to call ourselves a salesperson, but in fact, as a business owner, entrepreneur, landscaper that runs their own business, you are the salesperson in that business. And essentially, sales is the lifeblood of any business. If you do not make sales, if I do not make sales, I do not have a business, you do not have a business. And at the moment, in this current climate it seems a bit quiet and a bit negative, i.e., no one's really committing. I've spoken to literally 3 clients of mine who are all saying the same thing. People are not committing quick enough. They're not committing at all, or they go very silent. And it's not that they haven't got leads coming in, it's that the sales process is currently failing, and it's happening industry-wide. It's also important to remember that some sales gets more difficult in climates like this, where people are watching their money, seeing the household bills rise, seeing the price of blimmin' petrol and fuel go up. People start to watch their pennies, and suddenly landscapes and gardens and driveways are a nice to have. So it becomes really low down on their list of priorities of spending, unless you are going into the very high end market where money doesn't seem to be an object, and increasing, costs of living doesn't affect them. So I wanted to talk to you guys about this because I have also had a a request to quote really for some sales training for another client of mine for their sales teams. And I thought, as it's an issue that is affecting many of you, and particularly the people I'm dealing with and my clients, I thought it'd be helpful to just do a podcast episode on this. And it really is a big problem at the moment. And unfortunately, sales techniques that were working are not as effective as they are. So the key to this is handling those inquiries. A lot of us have fallen into the trap, some of my clients as well, that people who are not contacting you back are not contacting you back. They'll get in touch. Unfortunately, that's just not the case. It goes a lot deeper, and it means you have to work harder on that sales process, and you have to work harder to overcome objections, and you have to work harder to actually gain the sale. Like I said, the market is changing. Homeowners are becoming even more cautious, and actually, there's a much larger competition for every inquiry than there was, say, 14 years ago, when me and my husband first set up our landscaping business. There wasn't as many landscapers around. It was slightly easier. So let me start with the beginning. Why do landscapers lose sales? Well, there's a few reasons that I think you guys lose sales, and what I've experienced in my own landscaping business and still experience in my landscaping business. And that is, we have a slow quote process. So we suffer from it here because currently we are a two-man band plus me. And when you're working all days on the tools, your quoting gets a little bit delayed for any new jobs. So being slow to quote can be a real issue. For smaller jobs, ideally, you want to turn it around within 48 hours of seeing that client. For larger jobs, you'd be looking at 5 to 7 day turnaround. Sometimes, I hold my hands up, in our business, it's taken up to 14 to 21 days to get back to clients. These are larger projects, granted, but we need to, at this particular time, we need to be quicker in turning around those quotes. The other major thing that I'm really struggling with at the moment is follow-up. There is either little follow-up or no follow-up. And what I mean by this is you guys are happy to send out an email to say, did you get my quote? But you are really unhappy in sending a second, third, fourth, fifth email, or the better option, picking up that phone, and not picking up the phone once and saying they didn't answer, but picking up that phone more times than you would normally choose to do, because it's a very uncomfortable thing to do. You're stepping outside your comfort zone. But essentially, until that client tells you yes or no, you should be following up until they tell you to bugger off. You need to follow up. That's a real clear thing, because by following up, I know people get this conception, and I find it a massive misconception, that people think you're hassling buyers. You're not. You are providing a service, and you are saying to them that they are important to you. Their job is important to you. You want their job, therefore you are following up with them. You talk about products instead of the outcomes. So really, the way we need to start focusing on is not listing the products you're using or what you're going to do, how much drainage you're putting in, how much paving you're putting in, how many plants you're going to install in their planters. What you need to be doing is talking about the transformation itself. You need to be selling them the dream. Do they want more time in their garden? Is it to be pet friendly? Is it to entertain their friends and family? You basically have to sell the dream. It's not enough just to sell them what they're asking for, which is the products, the landscape. You need to really, absolutely get down to the outcome. They are not going to buy from you a patio. They're going to buy family time. They're going to buy entertainment, entertaining their friends and family. They're going to buy the fact that it's adding value to their home. It's a relaxing space that they can utilize. All of these things, you need to get them to buy emotionally from you, not logically. And I think that's where we fall down slightly. And the last thing I think is where we go compete on price. No two landscapers are the same. Just not going to happen. Even when they think they're quoting like for like quotes, and in my experience, I've requested to see other people's quotes, taking the names of the company off, and what the client originally thought was like for like was 100% not like for like. So you need to stop competing on price and start competing on the value that you bring to the table and the value and the transformation that you're going to create. Now, another thing that you could potentially utilize to your advantage is the consultation itself. So you could actually qualify them before you go into that consultation or that site visit. You could qualify much harder than you used to do, because initially we would pre-qualify a few basic things. Did they have some sort of budget, and was it within the price ranges that we, have? I used to ask the time frame. So are you looking like tomorrow, or are you looking for 3 months' time? Because if it's 3 months' time, yes, I'll go and see you. If it's tomorrow, definitely not. And that would literally be probably the most qualifying I would do before deciding whether to have a site visit or not. Very much tick boxing exercises. But then what happens is we as landscapers waste a lot of time. We waste a lot of time on site visits that we're never going to be going anywhere because they weren't our ideal clients. So I'm urging you to qualify a lot harder before you book that site visit. So not just talking about what the project is, what the budgets are when they're looking to start, but have they spoken to anyone else? Has anyone else come around? Who's involved in your buying decision? Is it you? Is it your husband, your wife? But basically, trying to get more down to the nitty-gritty, particularly around budget, because they literally will not say a budget half the time. I know this, you know this. It happens all the time. So you need to try and get the budget conversation in to say, even if it's projects of this kind, cost usually between 20,000 and 40,000 pounds. Is that within the sort of investment you've considered? If they recoil or freak out or be like, they are not your client, get them off the phone, don't book the site visit. But if they're actively chatting away to you and saying, yeah, actually, I was budgeting £25,000, fantastic, you've got something to work with, they're not going to be a waste of time. Also, building trust is key. So you need to become the trusted person to them. You need to be a trusted advisor. You don't act like a salesperson. You act more like the trusted advisor or consultant. You offer ideas, you spot problems, you educate the client, which is a massive one. Half of your clients, well, probably more than that, have no idea how much landscaping costs or the amount of work that goes into creating that patio they want, that seating area they want, the functional outdoor kitchen, the family space they're achieving. They have no idea what goes into it or the budget required. So you need to be able to educate them as much as possible. I think that's our job as landscapers, to do that anyway. You also should then be starting to seed the sale, in effect, by giving them options and explaining different options that they could have to create that space they want, that they dream of. You need to give them more value before you send over the quote, because they need to see that your expertise is valuable and they want to work with you. You should be leaving the client, not having them thinking that they want the cheapest person. You want them thinking, even if this person isn't the cheapest, they know what they're talking about. I trust them. You are building trust and rapport. You are not necessarily selling. You need to put that to one side. And you need to be really, really, really clever at managing and overcoming objections. I think that is the main key here. Like, do we truly, truly overcome objections? Because I think a lot of us just accept, oh, it's too expensive. I think we need to learn objection handling as a skill. You need to start handling objections and practicing how to handle those objections. We know what the main objections are going to be. It'll be price or time. So learn how to handle that. The other part I want to talk to you about today is the proposal and the follow-up. But essentially, the proposal, we need to give out better proposals. It's no longer good enough to send out a basic email with a word attachment. No, we need to be looking at where we're selling a transformation and we are wanting to be portrayed as the trusted landscaper that they want to work with. We need to put more effort into the proposals and quotes we're selling, particularly on the higher value projects that you truly want. So instead of just giving the quote, you could do something like have a cover page of a recent transformation you've done that explains what it is, a before and after, explain the problems that you solved, explain the goals of the family and the reason they wanted it done, and then show them the design vision that they had and then the after. So you're basically showcasing what you can do before they've even got to the price. You could add in a few reviews. Social proof and images, after images, are worth more than many, many words because they're proving to the client that you are trusted, that people recommend you, that you deliver what you say you're going to deliver. Other things you can showcase are industry awards you've won, or associations you're part of, or any other case studies that relate directly to that quote. So if it's a driveway quote, you are going to showcase driveways that you've completed before. You're not going to send them a patio transformation, just to make it very clear. But the point being, you want to show them the dream that you can prove you can deliver before you showcase the price. Okay, you need to make it obvious to them that they want to work with you. And there's no friction, there's no question on how much that's going to cost. So start thinking about what you're sending at the moment. Be honest with yourself. Is it a boring word template? Is it AI generated? Do you send it via email or do you go back in person? You need to start to think about visually how it looks, what it's showcasing the client. Is it really and truly selling you before you need to sell yourself? And is it delivered in the best way possible? If I was quoting for, say, a £50,000 garden, I'd be booking in a second site visit to go and sell that dream to them. And the proposal would be fancy. It would have some case studies in there. It would definitely have some social proof. And it would basically explain the price. Okay. If it was a £5,000 fencing job, probably not. It would just be sent on email, probably quite bog standard, but still maybe showcasing some social proof at the end if that was the kind of job I wanted to do. So the idea is to stop sending the most boring quotes and start thinking as your quote as an opportunity to sell before you have to sell. And what about follow-ups and the sequence of follow-ups? Like I said, we don't follow up enough, but you need to follow up more than you actually feel comfortable. This is a massive place where people lose money because, like I said, you send the quote, you wait, you hear nothing, you assume that the client isn't interested. Whereas the real reality of life are people are genuinely busy, or they genuinely forget, or they're waiting for their spouse or partner or someone else to show them, ask them their feedback, etc. So really, you just need to start following up more than feels humanly comfortable. And like I said, that can be through email, through phone calls, ideally a mixture of both. And you need to keep tracking this in your inquiry sheet to say whether you've won, lost, or they're still thinking. You need to make notes on what their objections were so that next time you get that objection, you can handle it better. You also need to keep notes on how many times you contacted them before they came back to you, because that will tell you what the ideal follow-up amount is really for your clients, or give you an idea anyway. And you need to start to think about real, true sales, sort of, what do I call it? Kind of a sales tactic, if you like, but it's creating urgency without pressure. You don't have to be a pushy salesperson. I'm not asking you to do that. That's not what I'm asking you to do. What I'm asking you to do is create a sense of urgency so they make a decision within a timely manner. So instead, you could say, instead of being a pushy salesperson, sign the dotted line today. That's kind of like it used to be the Anglian salespeople with windows. I once had one of them here in my house selling me windows for about 4 hours before we basically an overinflated price, which he got down to a third of the price, funnily, within those 4 hours, and multiple phone calls to his manager. I'm not asking you to do that. I don't think that's ethical or right, but it's being more honest, but creating that urgency. So you could say something like, we're currently booking for July. We only have one space left because someone has moved to September. Do you want that slot? How quick are you looking to have your garden ready for summer? You could say prices are increasing next month because materials are going up in April, etc., etc. Obviously, be mindful that it's not a lie, it's truth. So, shall we get you booked in now? Or, and one that I do on all my quotes anyway, is the quotation is only valid for the next 14 days. So you are giving people a reason to make a decision. You are creating urgency that's true, but you are giving them a reason to make a decision in a timely fashion. So you're not wasting your time following up and they have a deadline. People actually buy when they have a deadline because in the back of their mind, they're thinking, if I miss out on this, I'm going to have to pay more money, or I won't get my garden done in time for summer. It won't be done in time for, I don't know, little John's birthday that we're having in the garden, whatever it might be. You need to create that urgency and that pressure. So I'm going to give you a couple of wins that you can implement today or tomorrow in order to get this going. And you can, if you've made notes through this podcast, you've probably got some that you can do yourself. But essentially, right, I would start asking one question that will hopefully change the outcome and help you improve sales. And that would be, assuming everything looks right with the quote, what would stop you moving forward? And then use the aspect of silence. Because this question is going to uncover the real reasons they're not buying from you, which could be budget, it could be their partner, it could be timing issues, it could be competing quotes, it just could be a trust issue. But before you go away and create the quote, or even if you go back and ask this question on the second visit when you're showcasing the quote and presenting the quote to them, you're not wasting hours of your time. You need to start asking that question. So if everything looks right with the quote, what would stop you from moving forward? I would also add the budget qualification discussion to every qualification call you have. So asking the question about the quote, what would stop you from moving forward? Asking the qualification question about budget. So really trying to dive into budgetary thoughts, where they are with their budget and whether they actually have the budget to get done what they want to get done. I would also look at your quotes. Are they fancy, not fancy? Are they selling you? And most importantly, are they selling you or not selling you? Do you stand out against Joe Blogg's landscaping down the road? And finally, the most important thing I want you to take away from today is the following up more than you feel comfortable with, because it's going to be in the follow up that you get the most positive results. Because if you're not following up, you don't care enough about that client to want their job. That's what it tells them. If you're just waiting for them to get back to you, you're probably going to wait about a year, or when they're not busy, or when the garden becomes a priority and maybe you then won't be able to fit them in. So you need to see the follow-up as doing them a service. If you don't follow up, you are doing that client a disservice and you're not doing your reputation any good either, because you need to, in this climate, build a better reputation around communication. Because if you can communicate really well from the initial discussion on the phone before you book the site visit, to when you conduct the site visit, to the quote, to the follow-up, and then when you've got the job, the communication between you and the client when you're on site, due to be on site, the team that are there, etc., your reputation is just going to improve dramatically, because communication is where a lot of customers feel very frustrated with their trades that they're dealing with. So communication, particularly now, is key. So that was a lot of sales stuff to think about. You might be thinking, well, I do this anyway, and that's fantastic. Talk to me. If you're still having problems, get in touch. But if you do want help improving sales, conversions, building your business in the way you want it to be built in order to, generate a profit, live a easier life, then book a discovery call with me at the Landscapers Coach. Just send me an email saying discovery call. It's paula@thelandscaperscoach.co.uk. I am also in the middle of creating a landscapers sales guide, which will be available as a digital product download. So I will keep your eye out for any marketing around that when it's live, which I hope it will be live by next week. You have the option to purchase that and use it in your business straight away. But one final point, a closing point, if you like. In a slowing market, right, the landscaper who follows up and communicates the best and the most often will beat the landscaper that builds the best garden. The quality gap between most of you isn't massive in the eyes of homeowners because they don't understand landscaping. A lot of people do not understand the attention to detail and what goes into creating a really brilliant garden. But the communication gap between the landscaping companies they're dealing with is huge. So get on top of your communication, follow up, and the sales will come in. So that is it for this week. I will be back in a couple of weeks on the Limitless Landscapers podcast with another exciting podcast that's going to help you in your landscaping business. Ciao for now.